Hi everyone, my name is Maureen Green. I'm a licensed therapist, and this video today is about sadness, grief, depression, melancholy, feeling blue, all of those family emotions underneath the umbrella of depression and sadness. Now I know most of us have some challenging emotions that creep up, and then some of us have higher intensity with those emotions. Today, the purpose is not to discuss treatment for clinical depression, but it is to understand the function and the purpose of this particular emotion. What I'd like to start off with is by saying every emotion has a purpose. Every emotion in our body has a job to do, but we are not taught that. And therefore, we don't teach our children that, and therefore, they don't teach their children that. And so this information gets missed, and we grow up really just kind of having a emotion phobic society, right? And so it leads to not managing something for a long time, ignoring that grows over time, and then we have clinical and psychiatric conditions that develop because we really didn't have the language of our body, language of what this emotion is trying to communicate with us from the get-go. So in order to be in tune with our body, we have to pay attention to what it's communicating. So today, let's focus on sadness. Sadness, if you check in with your body, or a time where you felt really low and sad, you'll notice that sadness takes away energy. It is not an energizing emotion. It does not make us want to go towards something. It makes us want to go away from something. It makes us want to shut down. It makes us want to withdraw, not socialize. So this emotion, I like to sort of frame it as in, it's a moving away emotion. Like anger would be an emotion that helps us move forward towards something. Depression and sadness is something that makes us move away. So ask yourself, do I isolate? Do I withdraw? Do I call into work? Do I shut down and not talk to my partner? Do I withdraw from my kids? How does sadness show up for me? And how could this particular feeling that feels so terrible and none of us want to have actually a function and a purpose? Well, Marsha Linehan, in her dialectical behavioral therapy, very much enlightened all of us on that every emotion has a function and a purpose. The purpose and the function of sadness is not always used correctly because we don't know it and we don't understand it. But the function of sadness is to actually slow us down. Now, you may or may not agree with this, but pay attention to your life. Has sadness ever visited you when you needed to take a break? When you needed to sleep more? When you needed to actually reflect? Look back in your life. Connect the dots of where you're at right now. Make some changes based on connecting those dots from your past. Have we used sadness in a meaningful way, and then it led to something worse? I haven't heard, in 16 years of practice, I haven't seen people use sadness in a meaningful way and have terrible outcomes. So sadness and being with sadness doesn't mean that we wallow in it, but sadness helps us grieve. Grieve not just the death of a family member or a loved one, but sadness helps us grieve any form of loss. It could be loss of status. It could be loss of a job. It could be loss of a sense of self. Many people who become parents go through periods of sadness. And not just women, and it's not just postpartum, but there is a period of sadness, that loss of who they were is not something that we allow ourselves to feel. So, the function and the purpose of sadness is to slow down, reflect, so that we can make use of those reflections and connect the dots from our past to make a better present and work towards healing. Now, for some of us, if we shut down, slow down, and don't get up, it just gets worse. That is not being with sadness. That is not honoring it. That is not being a kind and nurturing host to sadness. If you have a guest come over to your house and you just go and lay down on the couch, you have absolutely no conversation with them, and you just go to sleep, that's being a very poor host. And so if we do that with sadness, we're not going to go anywhere. It actually is going to just increase our sadness over time. We're not being with it, we're just ignoring it. It's being a poor host to sadness. So if we want to make this effective, because every emotion, and the follow-up videos, I will talk about each and separate most common emotions that people experience and its function. Remind yourself, when you feel sad, my body's telling me slow down. My body's telling me get some rest. My body's telling me get some solitude. In our busy world, we don't allow that. We always feel like we have to be committed to something. And if we have an empty weekend, we end up booking it up like there is no tomorrow. Most of us go back to work on Monday already exhausted from the weekend because the weekend was not a time for rest. Our adrenal system kicks into overaction, and then we wonder why we have chronic exhaustion and chronic fatigue and chronic pain. Well, all of that is ignoring the body. And how could you have all of that and not feel sad or depressed? So, in order to honor and be a good host, we want to recognize it and understand its purpose. So, welcome sadness, just like in the previous video with rain. Welcome it, allow it, reflect. Reflect on your past. Connect the dots and move forward. We don't lay on the couch for days and weeks because that does not help sadness. When you ignore something and don't nourish it and tend to it, it grows. And we don't want sadness to grow. We want to respect it, honor it, see its message, get some rest, reflect, allow ourselves to mourn, allow ourselves to express emotion, cry if we need to, and then get up and go do what we need to do. I know that's really hard to do for some people. Oftentimes people feel like they need an assistant with some medications. But that means that we've ignored sadness now at this point for quite a long time. That means you have an adverse relationship with sadness. That means you want to keep it away from you as far as possible because maybe it has created a lot of suffering in your life and you can't interpret its messages. So I'm challenging those of you who struggle with sadness and depression. Please honor it. Welcome it. Invite it for tea. I know that sounds weird, but Thich Nhat Hanh is one of the gurus I really aspire to and learn a lot from. And he invites sadness to tea. And culturally speaking, when somebody unwanted comes to our house, we don't just slam the door in their face. And we don't ignore them after inviting them in. We offer them some water. Can I get you something to drink? Look at sadness as an unwanted guest. Be good to it. Honor it. Offer to nurture it, but not swim in it. Emotions that are painful and difficult sometimes can feel like the swampland of the soul. We get to visit the swampland, but we don't get to stay there. So I challenge you to visit the swampland. Honor what you feel. Reflect, make the connections. Mourn, begin grieving. Allow yourself to have those feelings. And then do it again tomorrow if it's still there. And the next day. But live and learn how to be with the feelings of grief and sadness and loss and depression. The more we allow them to exist, the less the intensity will become over time. Hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're interested in new videos. Our next video, I plan on doing it on fear and anxiety. Hope this is helpful, guys. Take good care, and I'll talk to you soon.